Welcome back to Phil's house, guys. Today, I decided I'd go ahead and get some paint work done on my body panels for a tail of a katana. So, gonna go a little different direction here than previous videos. Do a little bit of paint prep and get ready to throw some paint on this bike. Get looking just a little bit better. As far as I can tell, this bike was red originally, and then someone painted a green metallic, and then someone else come along and painted a satin or a flat black. So we got a few spots where the paint has been scratched down, and you got kind of a layer to it, which we got to get that layer out of it. Otherwise, it'll stick out when we apply paint to it. So we're basically just trying to make the panel smooth and uniform. I'm going to be starting using 330 grit wet sandpaper. And then we're going to work our way up to 800 grit to give it kind of a final smoothing out. So that should get us where we need to go. And then I'll be using the easiest paint color to pull off and look decent, which would be white, as white does not reflect imperfections as easily as other colors. One of the hardest ones being black to get right. So white should give us a nice, clean looking paint job and be a little different than your normal colors that you normally see katana done in. Except for one gentleman I was watching on YouTube that built a katana a few years ago. He did go white and black, which it looked good. So we'll see how this one turns out. But first things first, start off working this panel. It at least has to be roughed up for paint to stick to it. And then we just have to get some of the bigger imperfections out of it as we work it. Whenever you're sanding, you try to go with as big and as wide of motions as you can, just to keep everything uniform as you cut it down. Every swipe you take, you're basically cutting away material. So to keep it even, try to keep it as wide as possible. Now you will see me make short strokes in certain areas. That's where I'm trying to take off a little more material than the other areas to kind of flatten it out a little bit more. But in general, keep everything smooth. Also, you don't want to really don't want to try to put any pressure at all on your fingertips when using sandpaper like this too. Otherwise, you're going to be digging grooves where your fingers are. So you're just kind of gliding that paper along. One other thing I'm doing also is I'm making sure to wet this panel down and clean off the residue once you start seeing it build up on the paper or the panel itself, because that residue will turn into abrasive also, and then you start scratching the panel itself if you leave that stuff on there. So you want to be mindful to keep that panel as clean as possible while you're doing sanding on it. Otherwise, you will dig gouges into it that way. As we sand this, you will actually start to see some of the green metallic come out of it from the previous color, along with the original red, and looks like I'm also taking some spots down into the plastic itself, which is okay as long as, like I say, you're keeping everything uniform, you're not digging gouges into it. And then we're just going to keep on working this until we get the gouges out of it and everything looks pretty uniform. Ideally, you want to be able to run your fingernail across it and not get caught in anything, which I'm also not seeking absolute perfection on this. So I may not get absolutely perfect, but you're doing a rattle can job in your yard. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll look a lot better than it did. That's the main thing. once heard Cleus McFarlane say on one of his videos that it's a 20-foot paint job. Well, that's about all you're going to get in your front yard is 20-foot paint job. It'll look good from 20 feet away, and that's all that really matters. If you do it well, it might look good at a closer distance than that even. But if you look at 20 feet away, it looks good. That's all that matters. You don't have to spend $10,000 on a paint job to have a good looking paint job. You just have to put some time into it. Biggest piece of time is your prep work. Once you get prepped out, then as long as your paint comes together okay, you don't get any runs or sags, then you did a good job. But it's all in technique. I'm definitely not a professional. I just practice a lot. This isn't going to be perfect, but it'll look a lot better than it did. And that's all I'm looking for. So next we're going to go ahead and lay our panels up someplace where we can paint them decently, which for me is going to be my propane tank and my chimenea. Get them in position where I can get pretty good coat on it without getting overspray everywhere. Next I have my timing cover, which for this I'll be using high heat semi-metallic paint by Rustoleum, which should be close enough to the original silver that the engine is painted already, when will definitely stick out a lot less than black. So the original cover had the bottom ear of it broken off and whatever rack happened to it, so found this replacement on eBay, which is remanufactured in China, but should do the trick. We're just going to put a very light coat on all these parts at first, just to help the paint stick to it, and then you can go heavier on your subsequent coats. But first coat, always want to go thin. Now we're going to put down some light coats on the main body panels, which main thing to remember is light coats at first, and you can go heavier. Paint is nothing to be scared of. You can always fix it later. Things that you're going to have to fix are going to be runs, and then any spots where paint doesn't stick and flakes up, anything like that. So you just spray it out even and uniform. You should be okay. If not, then you break out sandpaper and you fix it. Next we have our second coat. This one we can go a little bit heavier and start getting some more paint put on it. Same thing. Just want to keep long, uniform sprays and try to put down the same amount of material on the whole piece. So as long as you do that, you should avoid any runs and imperfections. Just have to be patient with it. You can do short sprays and troublesome spots that you're trying to cover, like the front sides of it there, or rather the top sides of it, where it's kind of hard to get a good coat in. But any of your long pieces, just long even coats. Then we'll come back to this cover here and do the same thing. Of course, not a big part, so long and even doesn't quite apply, but you just try to put down the same amount of material on each pass that you make. And you look carefully at it, you can see the wet spots where it's a little bit dry. It's also a little trickier if it's metallic paint, just because the metal flake does kind of stick up on it too. But just be patient with it. You'll get there. Now we're on to our third color coat. This will more than likely be our last color coat. You got a pretty good coat on there in a second, so this is just kind of evening out everything and making sure we're covered all the way through. So just same steps. Medium coat to wet coat, but not too wet, because the more wet you get, the more chance you have for it to run. I've not mentioned what I'm using yet, but I'm just using a standard Rustoleum Painter's Touch clear coat, the 2x coverage, and then same will also apply to my base coat, which is going to be a Rustoleum 2x coverage Painter's Touch. I chose that because it's paint primer in one, and also it's made for plastic. The key of being made for plastic is it has a adhesion promoter in the paint, which will enable it to stick to plastic. Not all paint has that. Therefore, if you're going to be painting directly on plastic, you need to have an adhesion promoter. Now, if it already has paint on it, more than likely it's going to stick to existing paint. But if you have any spots where it's bare plastic, like I do, then that adhesion promoter is what's going to make it stick. Otherwise, it will peel off. Now we're going to lay down a clear coat. Same process. I'm going to do light coats on first round. Now, as far as drying time, I'll let there be a 10-minute drying time between my coats and my base coat. Then I'll let my final coat dry for about 45 minutes before I went out and started my clear coat. Clear coat, I'm going to do about 7 minutes in between coats. And I'm going to wind up laying down 4 coats of clear on this. That way, if we need to go back later and polish into it, we have plenty of clear coat to polish into without getting into the base. And every subsequent coat of clear will make it a lot glossier and shinier. There will also not be any clear coat used on the timing cover piece that I did, because that particular clear coat is only good up 200 degrees. So if I clear coat over that with that particular clear coat, then it'll probably wind up bubbling up if the engine got over 200 degrees, which it probably will at some point. And then that'll just ruin the paint altogether. So that one's probably better off just leaving it alone with just base coat.